Hello, Jordan.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Michael.
Jordan's been practicing his Santa Claus accent.
Oh. How were you naughty or nice this year, Michael?
I think I was all right. That's a pretty good accent.
Maybe I'm Santa.
Santa's Jordan.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Whoa.
If you have your kids in the car.
Louise.
You know what, David? Bleep that out, actually. Let's bleep that out.
Yeah. Jeez. Oh, my gosh.
Have you seen the Trump video where he's like talking to a kid on the phone? He's like, oh, you're 7. Do you still believe in Santa Claus? Because at 7, it's marginal, right?
He said that?
Uh-huh.
To a 7-year-old? He said at 7, it's marginal?
I believe so. Yeah.
Because at 7, it's marginal. No, I have not seen that. Is that recent?
No, it's an old clip.
Are you still a believer in Santa? Because at 7, it's marginal, right?
That's so funny. No, I did see a clip where there were, he was speaking, and there was a group of people who were like, we're gays and we're for Trump. We're gays for Trump. And Trump was like, wait, where are the gays for Trump? And they raised their hand, and he looks at him and he goes, you don't look gay.
He definitely has comedic like tendencies and like is naturally funny.
Whether he tries to or not, it was funny. Anyway, how was your Christmas?
It was great, bro. We got, first episode of the new year.
This is the first episode?
We got in 51 last year. Yep.
We were planning on 52, but that was my fault.
Now, a holiday week, it happens. We did 51 the year before, taking the last one off, and then 51 again in 2024, taking the last one off. Not bad.
Not bad if you ask me.
If your employer says, hey, I want you to work 51 weeks this year, that's a pretty solid year of work.
Agreed.
Even if it's just 1 hour once a week.
1 hour a week.
A real hard job. No, I had a good Christmas.
Well, no, the week before the last week, then you do like an hour and 40, though.
That's true. We did have that hour, 25-minute episode.
All right, so tell me about your Christmas. What'd you do?
Well, remember when you asked me about my Christmas traditions a week or two ago? And I realized that, I don't know, my long-term memory might not be what it used to be. But
Did I ask you got upset? You're like, I don't know.
No, I couldn't remember that many of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't get upset like that, Jordan. That's not my MO. That's actually something I've noticed. You know how we talk about fear and anger? And I've had spurts of high anger and you've had spurts of high anger, but your fear is generally high and I have no fear. I realize that I have historically had sadness at times, which I feel like is an emotion that you have less of.
Yeah, I don't really have much sadness.
Yeah. Yet like things that could potentially create sadness tend to create anger for you.
Yeah. Or fear. Yeah, the sadness leads to, it's like, why am I going to dwell in this sadness? Let me just jump straight ahead to like what that actually means, fear or anger.
Yeah. Why am I going to dwell in this fear? Why don't I jump to what this actually means?
No, why am I going to dwell in this sadness? Like
I'm talking about me. Why am I going to dwell in this fear?
So then you just go to sadness?
No, sadness would be before fear.
What do you get sad about?
We don't have to get into details, but just historically, like going back to childhood.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah, sadness was, it was something that struck me as true. I was like, oh yeah. Like I could relate to you on the fear difference more, understanding your lack of sadness and where I would lean into that for motivation at times in my life.
Did your sadness influence your music choices as a kid?
You know what? That's a great chicken or the egg problem right there. Probably. But then it's like a spiral because one feeds into the other.
Yeah, you
like,
listen to...
I'm sad. I'm going to listen to some emo music in the
Yellow
7th
Card.
grade. Yeah. Bro, Life of a Salesman was my alarm in like 6th and 7th grade. I had the little boombox thing above my bed. This is pre-internet phones, all of this. and my old school alarm clock would go off, and immediately, so I didn't fall back asleep, I would just reach up and hit play and turn the volume to max, and it would just blast on my speakers.
That's amazing. Parents must have loved that.
I was in the basement, so it was much less. I think they liked me waking up on my own more than having to wake me up and fall back asleep.
That's a real 90s way to wake up, in the basement, yellow card blasting out of the boombox above your head. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't 6th or 7th grade. Maybe it was 9th or 10th grade, because I think Ocean Avenue came out in 2000 or 2001. Anyway, my Christmas was good. We played some outdoor hockey yesterday on Christmas Day.
Nice. On skates?
Yeah.
Oh, that's sick. I don't know if you're just playing foot hockey. Who'd you play with?
My sisters and my brother-in-law.
Oh, did your sister, like, are your sisters good skaters? Can they play hockey?
Yeah, two of them played.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So got out there and...
did your dad play?
He didn't skate. He's been having some ankle issues as of late from...
pickleball.
Yeah, from all the pickleball. He was out there in his boots for a little bit, but just no. And then we actually played with the people who were at the rink. So had a little game. Played some cards afterwards. Played some dice games. Yeah, it was good. How was your first day of Hanukkah?
First day of Hanukkah, man, it was good. My mom's here. My brother was here. Brother went over the top. Gifts for his nieces. Just really
nice.
He brought a lot of gifts, which I wasn't expecting. It was funny. I was talking to my wife. I was like, because we didn't talk for like 10 years, my brother and I. And then only recently did we really reconnect. But even the reconnection, it's not like we're like calling each other all the time and hanging out. It's like once a year, twice a year, we'll see each other and talk about my mom. But like, it's good, but it's not like we're buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I never would have expected him to bring like 12 gifts for each girl. I just like that. I was like, I don't think I know him very well. Like, I don't know him. I just like, that was so outside. Like if you'd like given me any number of guesses as to what he was going to do, I never would have expected that. It was very sweet. And the girl, like, especially my oldest one, just loves him. Just like, so it was really nice.
That's awesome. That's a strong uncle move, Lee. Well done.
Yeah. And then he left and found a 24/7 game of poker.
Nice.
And I was like, I don't know you at all. He was like, yeah, they have poker games everywhere. Like there are games that just play nonstop 24/7. And he just went and found one near the airport.
A card room. Not a private game.
I don't know. Apparently, like, you can pay a membership. I was asking him all about it. Like, he paid a day pass, and you go in and you pay for your time. And so he paid for 2 hours. And
yeah, instead of taking a rake on each hand, a lot of these card clubs, you'll pay hourly to play rather than on a per hand basis. Yeah, and it's legal and safe, and it's like it's like going to a casino. It's like, I'm going to go play slots or blackjack, except that you're playing against other players rather than against the house. So you can actually win money in the long term in poker.
He was saying he got some people mad at him because, like, he said obviously there's a lot of math involved, but he doesn't play with like that level, and like he's not like really that mathematic. So there were some hands that he won where when he had to show his hand, that people were like, what the fuck, why did you play that hand? And like they got really mad at him.
I mean, that's just terrible etiquette and like low emotional control by those individuals, because you want people who are playing incorrectly. Even if they win in the short run, they're going to lose in the long run. And it's just, you should be nice to the people you're playing with. I
asked him, I was like, have you seen the movie Rounders? My brother's a huge movie guy. And he was like, no, I haven't. I was like, dude, if you like poker, you got to see Rounders. Like, please, you have to. I told him how you made me watch it. And it's an amazing movie.
You watched it?
You and I told you I watched it. Yeah. We spoke about it. It's an amazing movie. Wow, you're having a me moment right now. You're forgetting that we spoke about this. You made me watch it, and
I know I made you watch it, but usually when I make you do something, it takes a while.
But I did it. And I also did the meditation the other day, by the way. I haven't done it today.
On our list. That's on our list. Don't spoil anything.
You know what I think?
So what did you think of Rounders?
The music at the closing scene, the song is an amazing song.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
The song that
he
comes
gets in
up.
the cab. He's going to Vegas.
Yes, it's an amazing song.
The whole soundtrack is good.
Yeah.
The whole movie score. Wait, so when did you watch it?
It's got to be close to a year ago at this point.
Any, oh yeah, I think we did talk about this.
I think we spoke about it on the podcast.
Because I was always so confused why they use the word kike so casually. And I remember asking you, I was like, what, is kike a bad word? And you're like, yes, it's a very bad word.
It's a really bad word.
I was like, wow, he's like worm. I mean, I guess that's
it's
his
like the Jewish equivalent of the N word. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the professor plays a good role.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real classic '90s movie. It's like I don't know if it's in the '90s when they made it, but it's a classic movie that they don't make those types of movies anymore.
No. Good. I'm glad. Well, Lee should watch Rounders because it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Bombed in the box office or didn't do well at all, and then later developed an absolute cult following.
Oh, interesting.
And probably was the biggest component or maybe the second biggest component in the poker boom of the early 2000s. Chris Moneymaker winning the 2003 World Series of Poker main event, who was like a casual, non-pro to win. And ESPN was televising it with whole cards so you could actually see their cards, plus the momentum of Rounders in the late 90s into the early 2000s.
I used to watch that on ESPN. Just like casually not because I knew what was going on, but they did a great job televising it. You could see the cards. They had the camera underneath the cards. Like, it was really cool.
Yeah, they built up characters too, did like off table interviews. They did a really good job.
Anything good or anything notable happened over Christmas?
Went over to my parents on Christmas Eve, went to church on Christmas Eve in the afternoon. Had a nice dinner with the whole family was there, opened presents, watched part of It's a Wonderful Life, but got too late. We all slept over there, woke up Christmas morning, did a little bit more presents with my little nephews.
What's your favorite present that you got your nephew, your oldest nephew?
We didn't go huge. We didn't go huge with it. Just like, a little toy, little clothes, like. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. There's, from everything I've heard, and now I have a few godchildren, like, depending on the number of kids, I guess, that a family has, what I've heard from all these parents is we have way too many toys.
Yeah,
like,
correct.
Please don't buy 5 toys. It's completely, and it's the classic, he's opening presents and you get a present from grandma and grandpa and like each aunt and uncle. But 3 presents in, he's way more fascinated with like the box that one of the presents came in. He's putting that on his head and running around the room. It's
exactly right.
Yeah. But yeah, man, really good Christmas and excited for 2025.
How's your nutrition over Christmas?
It's never good. It's never good over Christmas. So much good stuff.
Yeah. Do you have any cookies? What'd you eat?
Chinese food, really greasy, really oily.
Like General Gao's chicken?
No, that's a joke because you ate Chinese food.
I didn't know if they didn't know that because they weren't part of that conversation before we did the podcast.
Yeah, but it's kind of. Okay. They didn't. Okay. They might have assumed. Chinese food. They might have assumed, right? That's
had Chinese food. The Jewish thing is you have Chinese food.
I thought we talked about that a couple of podcasts ago.
I think we did. Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, it was good. We had a ham on Christmas Day.
Oh, interesting.
Or Christmas Eve. Pulled pork on Christmas Day.
Oh, nice.
Rigatoni, Christmas Eve. Yeah, and then there's just a lot of stuff out, like nuts
cookies.
And cheeses and Christmas cookies and all kinds of good stuff.
Love that.
That's probably
Did you drink alcohol?
Time. No. That's
None.
Probably the time of year that I indulge the most for like the longest amount of time. It's cold outside. You're not doing a lot. There's access to really good stuff for extended periods of time. Yeah.
Nice.
How about you? Did you eat a lot?
No, we had sufganiyot yesterday. So like there's this Israeli bakery near us. And they're these like donuts, but they're ridiculously good. They're like big balls, and they're filled with either chocolate or jelly or cream, and then they fry them again, so it's like crispy on the outside, super doughy on the inside. So I had one of those.
I told you donuts were underrated.
This is different. You've never had a donut like this.
I've had sufganiyot.
You've never had
What do I look like? They're big balls, and you deep fry them, and they're
That's it, man.
It sounds tasty.
Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
If I did, I wouldn't share them publicly.
Got it.
How about you?
If I did, I wouldn't share them publicly either.
You already told me. I said I was going to do more of the same in 2025. You told me that you were going to go to your daughter's school on Fridays.
Yeah. I started doing that, which has been good.
Oh, you took the why start on January 1st when you could start on December 6th mindset.
It was more of a push from my wife. She was like, you got to change this. So I changed it.
It wasn't the aggressive social media post of start now. It was it
was my wife is really tired of me having this outrageously long work day on Fridays. So I'm going to switch it to Wednesdays, and then that opens up Friday.
You're a good dude. You're a good husband.
I try.
For most of human history, the husbands were just gone.
Not taking a 4-day work, not doing a 4-day work week. That's for sure.
Yeah. And even like the work from home when you can like be more involved and helping, and it's definitely a big change from the majority of human history.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And we're also, we have unconventional jobs. So
correct.
Most 9-to-5s. Although COVID leading to so much work from home and like never fully going back into the office, I bet there's a big uptick from 2019, even now into 2025 of work from home or even like hybrid type schedules for corporate America jobs.
You know what's so funny? I remember, I feel like it hasn't been that long. Part of me feels like it's been a long time. Part of me feels like it hasn't been a long time since we started doing this online coaching stuff, 2011, 2012. But I remember 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, you tell someone you do online coaching and the blank stares and the just like the what are you talking about was just, I wouldn't tell people because I was just like, I don't want to have to go into this whole explanation, Now I haven't had anyone second guess me. I haven't had anyone do a double take. Like in the past, I don't know, 4 years or so, it's really since COVID is what it is. I think like so much moved online since COVID where people just like, oh, got it. Okay. But with Instagram, TikTok, and applications, it's no one and anyone, whether it's someone who's helping me fix my tire, someone who is just completely out of this industry overall, you say, I do online fitness coaching and it's just immediately accepted. Now, which is the complete opposite of what it was 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah. And definitely 12 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. People would be like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, are you sure? It's so funny. People would be like, are you sure? Like, what's your real plan? And now they're like, now they're like, that's really smart of you. That was super smart of you. It's so interesting how that's changed.
That's human nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I obviously COVID played a big role in that and having to be home and so many things that you normally would have done in person had to be online.
COVID really accelerated this shift to online. Like I think it would have come anyway, but it just accelerated it by like 50 years.
Interesting. It definitely accelerated it. Do you think in 50 years we'll be more online than we are right now?
Dude, I can't even imagine what 50 years is going to look like. Because things are changing so fast, especially with AI. Like the stuff that I'm seeing with AI is so crazy.
Do you think in 10 to 15 years we'll be more online than we are right now?
What do you mean by more online?
More time in the digital world relative to the real world.
Like, do you mean like working from home type thing or just how people are interacting?
I mean, how you're spending your time. So if you are scrolling for entertainment, that's online. If you are doing a Zoom call with a client, that's online. If you are at the playground with your daughter, that's in person. If you are sitting in the backyard and like things are happening, but you're also scrolling, that's online.
I think we're gonna be more online.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it's gonna feel less like it doesn't. Like right now we're acutely aware that we're online because it's in our hand and we're holding it up and we have to put it down. But they've already started to shift that with these goggles that you put on, and you can just walk around online while you're actually out in public. And I feel like it's only going to get quote unquote better, more efficient, less bulky, less cumbersome. And we have these big goggles now. I think soon that will be like in a museum, like, look, this was the first iteration of this stuff. And then it's like just going to be either like a contact lens, or they literally will have surgeries where it's just like zing, you just put it in and it's just, you can always have it on whenever you want. So it will literally be like scrolling and online will just be all the time.
That's a prediction that I've seen. I think, I don't know if it's 10 years, 15 years or when, but I think we peak. I think that the mental health crisis in the West is directly correlated with time online. And I think that a world where we plug ourselves in permanently makes us far worse mentally. Maybe more efficient, maybe more productive. Who knows if like the balance between doing something that's dopaminergic and addictive, but bad for you. Like, who knows if we as a species will choose the thing that's better for us versus the thing that makes us feel better in the long run. But, my guess is we're less online in 20 years than we are right now. Or maybe it becomes a luxury to be more offline. I don't know.
I think that's going to be it. I think it's going to be the rich, wealthy people can spend less time online, but the more like the hourly, the people who are living paycheck to paycheck, or the people who aren't as fortunate from a money perspective, I think it's going to be a luxury. The luxury. It used to be the luxury to have a computer. It used to be the luxury to have technology. Soon it will be the luxury to not have technology and to not like
use it
constantly.
As much.
Yeah, and especially as long as we live in a society that is just like money, right? And as long as there's money to be made, then people will always be wanting to find the more efficient and the way to do it from home. And that's going to just, I think it's going to lead to much more online usage.
Interesting. The wealthiest people I know spend the most time online.
I think the wealthiest people who also work the hardest. But the wealthiest people I know
it's not popular to say publicly on the internet, but the wealthiest people generally work the hardest.
Well, I think there's a difference between the people who are the wealthiest and also work the hardest versus the people who got super, super wealthy and then retired and called it. So for example, one in the fitness industry who I know not like super, super well, but I've communicated with him a fair amount, is Dr. John Berardi from Precision Nutrition. Built up Precision Nutrition, sold it for just an unbelievable amount. And then he stays at home and he homeschools his kids and he coaches his kids, and like super, super wealthy and very successful. And from what it looks like, he doesn't really spend much time at all online.
Yeah, I think he's the exception, not the rule.
I don't know. I think there's probably a good mix. The definitive factor is like hard work to become successful, for sure. You have to work really, really hard. I think the question is, how long do you stay in it?
And this is so funny because I was literally thinking about this morning. The quote of something to the effect of, you're an idiot if you never try to make money, but you're also an idiot if you never stop the journey of always trying to make money. And like, I think you have a really good mental framework with having a net worth target because you want to hit it, because you want to spend more time doing other things as well, family and other things basically. I think most people who work really hard. And when I say work really hard, I mean workaholics, let's say. People who are working really hard to accumulate as much money as possible. aren't even doing it for the money. They're doing it for the game that they're playing and end up doing it until they tip over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I sort of think about it like, I think about it like my deadlift. I think my deadlift was the first practical example of, all right, I've got this number that I want to hit. I want to hit 4 times my body weight, 530, 132. Once I hit that, because, you've spoken about hedonic adaptation. It's never enough. It's never enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was in my mind where it's like, cool. I mean, I hit 4 times. I could go to 4.5. It could go to 5 times. But it was just like, what's the point? Right. So I hit 4 times, bar down, done. That's where I think about it in terms of net worth. It's like, I've got this number. Like once I hit that number, I think I'm good. And then I can not do, like I can do things from a more leisurely perspective, spend more, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense.
That definitely makes sense. Again, I think exception, not rule.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But maybe not. We'll see. How did your 1 minute meditation go?
It was good. Did
you like it?
Did I like it? Did I like it? So I think the backstory is you've been trying to get me to meditate, and I've probably spoken about my backstory about my native experience.
And not even remind me, what was happening? Was it a memory discussion we were having? Yeah. It was, you had just said something, right?
I don't know where you're going with this.
Your brother had asked you a question, like, how's your podcast going?
Yeah. My brother said, are you still doing the podcast? And apparently I said no, but I didn't even remember that he asked me the question. Mm-hmm. So then later on, I was like, yeah, I'm doing the podcast. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, you told me 20 minutes ago that you don't do your podcast anymore. And I was like, you didn't ask me that. And I never said that. My wife turned around. She was like, you did say that. And I was wondering why you said that, because you work really hard on your podcast. I literally didn't even remember that you asked me a question, which tells me I probably wasn't really listening. But
And so I was thinking from the perspective of developing more presence, more prefrontal cortex strength and activation. You should try mindfulness meditation. Very different than it's not like a woo-woo-y thing. There's actually a ton of research around how you can increase the amount of prefrontal cortical matter in your brain through mindfulness meditation, which increases your willpower. That book we started reading, The Willpower Instinct, talked about it.
And a rabbi I was listening to was talking about it as well.
That's right. Yeah.
And then I started talking about, you're like, dude, I've been telling you about this for a long time. I was like, all right, let's do it.
And so there's a guided 1 minute meditation on YouTube or whatever, and you did it.
Yeah. I sat outside in my backyard, just the fresh air, the breeze on me, just went for 1 minute. It was good. I tried to pay attention to what it felt like to have my breath filling up my lungs, to feel the wind on my skin. If I was having any thoughts, like I would recognize it, and then go back to what it feels like to fill my lungs up. And then I'd be like, all right, I wonder how much longer is in this minute. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's go back to the breathing and feeling the nature, hearing the birds, like all this stuff. And so it was good. Like I felt good. I think the rabbi I was listening to, he was like, you will slowly make progress. This takes time. This is not a quick process. And so I did it once. It was either yesterday or the day before. So I've got to keep doing it.
Are you going to keep doing it?
Oh yeah. I'm going to keep doing it.
Probably
not every day, but like several times a week for right now.
Nice. And do that same video a few times a week?
Yeah. It's not even, they don't have any, they're not saying breathe in, breathe out. It's literally just music with, and then I just sit down and close my eyes.
I like it.
Yeah. Do you meditate every day?
No.
No?
I haven't meditated in a long time.
Oh,
but bro, our screen time is very different. Like our...
Is it?
Yeah, it is. What do you mean, is it?
I don't know what your screen time is like.
I think we can go back. I always go back to like sitting and looking out the airplane window for 45 minutes, which I did on my flight to New York a couple weeks back. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I finished the episode of Yellowstone and had like
45 so you watch TV. Oh.
45 minutes left in my flight, and I was like, I don't feel like listening to a podcast. I definitely don't want to be scrolling. I'm just going to set my phone down and just like looking out the window.
Did you talk to anybody?
No, absolutely not. See, and that's the fundamental difference is your constant seeking of stimulation, for better or worse, right? Like, and so I would definitely benefit from some mindfulness meditation, and I should, and I will bring it into my life. But I know for a fact you would really benefit.
Yeah.
And then layered with, and I really liked what that rabbi was saying, by the way, because what he was talking about was change. And he was talking about you can change your soul. Basically, you can change your identity. You can change what's on the inside, or I guess, or you can change your actions. And if you only change your actions, and by the way, you told me this, so I'm paraphrasing it back. It'd probably be better if you said it. But my understanding was, he said you can change your actions without changing on the inside, but then you're white knuckling it. And it's really hard to continue to with those changed better actions. But when you do have the internal transformation of your soul, that's more lasting change. That makes the changing of the actions more sustainable. Your actions, it's not going to feel like white knuckling. You're going to want to have those better actions more often because of the internal change.
He had a really good bit. It's like an hour and a half, almost 2 hour thing I've been listening to. He has this whole thing. He was talking about how you feel guilt over what you've done, and you feel shame over who you think you are. He's like, that's the difference between those two. He's like, guilt is what you feel guilty for what you've done, shame over who you think you are, who you identify as.
Okay.
And he was like, if you want to change, you start with your actions. He's like, that you start with the actions that you take. And a lot of people, they're like, well, what's the point? Because I have these internal desires, or I have these like thoughts that you can't always necessarily control. And then they feel shame around that. And so then they because of that shame, they won't take action. He's like, listen, there's a word, like the word in Hebrew for like a super, super righteous individual, like just like a perfect person, which you don't really come by, is a tzaddik. It's like person like who not only has perfect actions, but also like perfect insights. Like they don't have bad thoughts. They don't have it's just like all perfect, which like doesn't exist. But like that would be a tzaddik. And well, potentially. And he's like,
Some believe that exists.
He's like, if you look at a tzaddik, how does a tzaddik change the world? How does a really great person change the world? A great person changes the world through their actions. It's not because of their insides. It comes from their actions. And if a tzaddik doesn't have great action, then they don't change the world. And so it's like it has to start with your action, regardless of what's going on the insides. And then he goes into, but you also want to change your insides, because if you're just always trying to change your behavior without also changing what's going on the inside, then you're going to white knuckle it. Then it's a real struggle. Like how long can you really just grit through it if you don't change your insides? And he was talking about how there's two ways to do it. He's like, there's the quick way and there's the long way. And he's like, what's interesting is the long way is through meditation. And he's like, it's very simple. It's easy to say we meditate. The quick way, it's actually a much longer discussion. And it made me think about rapid fat loss versus sustainable fat loss. Sustainable fat loss is very easy, like in terms of you explain it. The explanation for sustainable fat loss is very, very easy. It's pretty quick. The rapid fat loss explanation takes a lot more nuance and a lot more time, and it's a much longer discussion. He's like, this for the longer term change, meditation is what will allow you to change what's going on in your insides. And there was more to it than that. It's not just as simple as saying meditation. But that's what I was like, all right, so I want to start exploring that a little bit, becoming more present and focused. I thought he had a good way of explaining it.
That's awesome. And so you're going to do more of the meditation?
Yeah.
Because I feel like you already do a lot with your actions, but you're then also gonna loop in more of the sustainable fat loss as well.
Yeah, gotta improve the insides too.
Yeah. And by the way, we all do.
Unless they're at Sadiq. Yeah, everyone does. Everyone has to improve their actions and their insides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I told you about this. Who is teaching these people to randomly add you to their email list?
Oh my gosh.
What is the guru mastermind that says just put emails of people you know on your list even though they didn't sign up?
I don't know.
Why is this happening?
The same people who are telling people to cold DM everybody. And I don't know. It doesn't make sense either. From it's number one, just from a decency perspective, but also for every subscriber you have to pay for them. And if you're putting on someone, they're putting on people who are not going to buy. People have put you on their list who you're definitely not buying their product. So they're paying to have you on there.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Mm-hmm.
You're costing them money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good explanation from a logical business perspective as to why you shouldn't do it. From I don't know, being a decent human and not being a bonehead perspective. Why? And I know these individuals, right? I would call them loose acquaintances, but it's happened multiple times where they add me to their email list. And then all this, I search email history. I've never gotten an email before. All of a sudden I start getting emails from this person. Maybe I give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there's something going on with email service providers where it's getting messed up. It's roping in everyone who you've ever talked to. Maybe it's a corrupt email service provider. I don't know. I could reach out to the individual and be like, hey, why'd you add me here? But very strange. And it happened enough times, both with loose acquaintances and also it happened with a couple of really big this is why I think there could be something weird with email service providers. It happened to me twice with really big names outside of the fitness space.
Oh, really?
Where I had been on their email list for a year or two, unsubscribed, received nothing for 1 to 3 years. And then they started.
Oh, that I can explain. That one I can explain. If you were on the email previously and then you unsubscribed, you can email those unsubscribes. So they can email you. They're literally I didn't realize this until it's not recent. I realized it a year or two ago. I found out that on some email service providers, you can send an email just to people who've unsubscribed from your list, which is crazy because that should mean that you can't email them because they've unsubscribed.
Yeah.
But there are literally options that allow, and someone that I know said, hey, you should run a campaign to anyone who's unsubscribed from your list.
So this has become a strategy.
And I was like, why would I do that? I was like, they unsubscribed. That's just going to really piss them off.
Yeah.
and they were like, yeah, but you have those emails. I was like, but at the very least, they unsubscribed with a neutral feeling. Why am I going to email them if it would be like if you're getting calls from a scammer or whatever and you block the number or you tell the company don't call here again and then they call again the next day. It's like, I'm even more mad now because I told you not to call.
Yeah.
So if it's the people who you've already been on the list, that makes sense because that's the strategy. But if it's people who you've never been on the list before, I don't think that's an issue with the service provider. I think they're just be like, oh, let's put Mike on my list. And
I'm going to build my email list.
I think it's more of they want more followers. They want to be able to say, this is how many email subscribers I have. It's and if you're adding people individually, don't do that.
We can bleep this out, but do you know who did the strategy of emailing unsubscribers?
Who? Shut up.
Yeah. Just picked right back, and not like hey, you unsubscribed this long ago. I have these new things coming, but if you want to get back on the list, you can here. Just cold picked right back up.
Oh, geez. That's not good.
Yeah, wild. Something that you said you were going to bring back. You are what you eat. Are you still going to bring it back?
Did I say I was bringing it back?
Yeah. And you might have been saying it slightly joking, But then I doubled down and was like,
Oh, yeah, I did
was
say
like,
it as
yeah, it's true. I was like, it's true, you are. And you were like, no, people would get really upset if you said that in this day and age. And I couldn't understand it. And then I started listing examples. I was like, if you eat a calorie surplus of pizza for a year, like you become a calorie surplus of pizza. It's literally the law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, I just remember being in 7th grade home ec and there being a poster on the wall and the poster said, "You are what you eat," in big bold letters. And there's a picture of essentially a kid who was eating a cheeseburger, and the kid was also a cheeseburger.
Like he had like a cheeseburger costume on, or was it like?
It's fun. I don't know how they did it. It was like early 2000s editing, like early 2000s Photoshop, but like he actually looked like a cheeseburger. Like somehow they made him like he had the eyes, and you could clearly see the kid's face in the cheeseburger, but he was also a cheeseburger, and like his mouth was opening up to eat more cheeseburger.
I like that actually. That's funny. I thought what you were gonna say was they had a kid with a cheeseburger who was like a very overweight kid. I wouldn't have liked that as a poster. But
I've always wondered about that in movies, like movies where like clearly the description for the actor that they need for this role is, all right, we need someone who's overweight. Like that can't feel good for you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But also if it's a successful movie, then they're getting paid
capitalism.
A lot.
Yeah. They're applying for roles that they fit the part of.
Yeah.
But yeah, you thought that people, and I think it's a small percentage of people. By the way, I think we have hit peak outrage, right?
Yeah.
Like peak cancel culture, peak outrage, and we're on the way down.
When was peak? What was the peak? What year was peak?
Great question. I don't know that I can be objective. I think it had to be the summer of 2020. Like that was wild.
That was peak? Yeah, that was crazy.
I mean,
but just also like, because I feel like it almost continued.
It did.
It did. Almost carried into 21. I feel like
it did. The summer of 2020, it definitely did. I don't know. Somewhere in there, I think is peak outrage, but. Even though we're on the way back down, there would still be people who are like, you are not what you eat. You are a human being, and it doesn't make you a bad person. It's like, well, we never said you were a bad person, but
you're just a cheeseburger.
There's humor to it. We need to bring, let's make humor great again.
Yeah,
actually,
agreed.
Because we know that if you eat, whole unprocessed foods, fruits, vegetables, lean protein, like if you eat in reasonable quantities, you are what you do would be a good thing too. If you sit and play video games all day, you are sitting video gaming. Yeah. And if you are doing an hour of activity a day, you are that. Like this is kind of funny. This is 80% funny and I think 20% metaphysically true. Yeah. And it doesn't say anything about
your character. Oh, there you go.
But it does. And maybe this is where it gets dicey and unpopular but it does. It does. And we can still have sympathy for the reasons that the person is in that position. Who knows what they have gone through to put them in that mental and physical and spiritual state. But can you look me in the eye and say someone who chooses to do the hard thing, they love donuts and hate broccoli, but they eat more broccoli than donuts. They don't like working out, but they get their butt to the gym 3 days a week and they do their strength training and they're pretty consistently doing this for years on end. Like that absolutely speaks highly of their character, no?
Correct. I think that absolutely speaks highly of the person's character who is doing that. The question becomes, does it speak negatively of someone's character if they're not doing that? And I don't know if I can say.
Hard to make a blanket statement.
You can't just say like, you can absolutely say it speaks positively of that person's character that they do that. But then there's also the other question. That person could be going to the gym, eating really well, and they can also be a piece of shit, right?
100%.
Like that person can also...
We're looking at those habits in a vacuum. Yes, they could be a murderer. They could be a rapist. They could be doing awful things.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And there could be someone who's not doing that stuff, who's just a tzaddik, right? Who's just like an amazing person as well. So we're looking at that in a vacuum, but from the vacuum perspective, there's no question that the person who's doing that, I don't even know what to say other than like the person who's doing that is at the very least prioritizing their health. But we can't look at it in a vacuum, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Of course we can. It's a fun thought experiment. If you have two people...
from a thought experiment. Yeah.
But yes, of course, there are more important things about character than whether or not you exercise. Like, no one's saying that. But just in our conversation we had when the quote, "You are what you eat," you notified me that would upset people. That just, that blew my mind. Like, we need to, if that's true, and I guess people get upset about everything on the internet, but if they really would be upset by that, then we're not far away from peak outrage enough. We need to continue to get further away from peak outrage.
I bet that if I tweeted "You are what you eat" and then posted that on my Instagram, I'd lose like 50,000 followers.
No way.
I bet I would.
No way.
Yeah. That comment section would be insane.
I don't believe you would lose 50,000 followers.
Well, we're not going to test it out.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't want you to. But
do you want to try it?
I'm
on yours.
So done making content, brother.
How about this? How about you give me the password and log into your Instagram, and I'll post it.
Let's post it from both of ours and see which does better. There's also something to be said about audience, right? If David Goggins tweeted "You are what you eat,"
and maybe he would get a great response.
Maybe he's a bad example.
His audience would love that.
If like even like Sal or Adam or Justin said that, I think they would get less of a negative response maybe than you would get.
I think it's because that statement lacks nuance. It just does, right? And it's like, so when you build your platform on nuance and then all of a sudden you strip it away.
Yeah. It would be,
Yeah.
But I don't think that gets you 50K on. If that gets you 50K on follows, then
I think that's putting it on the low end.
No shot.
Yeah.
No shot.
The only way it wouldn't lead to that is if Instagram just didn't let that many people see it.
Well, if it's getting the number of comments you're telling me it's getting, Instagram would want people to see it. Yeah.
It'd go nuts. And I'd get a lot of fitness professionals resharing and being like, this guy is the worst.
He is disgusting.
Disgusting. What a horrible thing to say.
I'm excited for you to
what?
I'm excited for you to hit your goal.
We'll see. I might not, man. We'll see. Markets are ripping.
I haven't really been checking for the last week.
Markets are ripping. Grocery prices are through the fucking roof, though. I spent $100 on like 4 items the other day. I was like, what the hell? What is this?
Yeah, prices are outrageous. Which is so sad for non-asset holders because, with massive stock market gains and price increases, asset holders get the benefit of the increase in asset values. But
what's your thoughts on crypto right now? Should people be getting into crypto?
What's my thoughts on crypto? I am not a crypto expert.
But
no.
What are your thoughts though?
No, I don't think that people should be getting into crypto right now. Unless you already know a lot about it, you're very passionate about it, you have like well thought out theses. Theses? I don't know. Yeah, I would not.
I think.
I dollar cost averaged into Bitcoin.
Yeah, you did.
For a while.
For a long time, you'd be like, yeah, just bought a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. You would do that like every day or every week.
But my thesis on Bitcoin was a hedge against fiat currency. And and similar to gold, but with way more hype around it. I had maybe a couple of years of buying very small amounts of Bitcoin pretty frequently. And
a couple of years of small amounts leads to,
it's not that much Bitcoin, but it's a hedge against, what if it does go to $1 million a coin in 15 years?
Yeah.
And USD is super weak. But the thing is, I think if Bitcoin goes to $1 million a year, I think that USD. The S&P has also skyrocketed. I think real estate has skyrocketed. Like that would be some kind of mass inflation, which is just an argument not to keep a super high percentage of net worth in cash.
For 2025 online personal trainers, what would let's say 2025 online personal trainers, people who have a little bit of expendable income. They've got a little bit of expendable income. Could be 200 a month, could be 1,000 a month. What do you recommend they do with that extra money? Where do they put it? For the long-term wealth, not for short-term, not for where should they put this 200 a month to 500 a month to 1,000 a month? Where should that be going? And what should they do with it?
The markets are so hot right now, but you also can't predict markets. I guess gun to my head, dollar cost average into a Vanguard fund that mirrors the S&P. VTI is one ticker that I like.
I think you are just massively overestimating what people understand. I don't think most people know what the fuck you just said.
Well, they should listen to more episodes because we've brought this lexicon in before. I would buy an ETF, which is a group of stocks. And the reason I suggested a Vanguard ETF is they have a very low fee, potentially the lowest fee of all ETFs. And the reason I'm not that bullish or excited about the market is because the stock market is because it's up so much in the last, 18 to 24 months. I mean, 4+ years really, like bottomed out in March of 2020 and has been ripping. I guess there were some downturns in 21 or maybe 22, but here's what I'll say. More important than what that person does with the 200 to 800 is that they are making decisions that allows them to continue to save, to continue to build, even if it's just excess cash that you have in a high yield savings account or in treasury bills that's getting 4% interest. That's even more important than where exactly they're investing that money, whether it's in real estate or whether it's in the stock market, or whether it's in Bitcoin. The problem, the mistake I think more people are making is being reckless might not be the right word, but being careless with their budgeting and just spending everything they make. So not saving at all is, I think, a way bigger problem and way more common problem than the people who are doing a good job of trying to minimize expenses as they earn. So they are setting aside a little bit every month, but then putting it in the quote unquote wrong investment.
That makes sense. So most people in the world are they get their money, they spend it. Get their money, spend it. Get their money, spend it.
That's my understanding. And it's also...
But we're going to assume that people listening to this are being a little bit more careful with their money. And so for those people who are a little bit more careful and they just want to maximize their ability to build wealth, to feel safe in economic downturns in order to, by the time they get to 60, whatever it is, they have enough, they've built up a significant amount of money to be able to support them and their families, grandkids, whatever you'd recommend ETF.
I guess the advice there, and I know Dave Ramsey has like a specific plan. He might even have free advice that is on this subject. And so I would go with that over what I'm saying, but something to the effect of set aside some amount of cash in a high yield savings account, somewhere between 10 grand and 25 grand. And then once that is set aside, yes, begin buying small amounts of ETFs once a month, we'll call it, and not even considering selling for many decades.
Yeah. Love that.
That's what you've been doing.
That's what I've been doing.
For years now.
For years. Under your tutelage.
Yep.
That's it.
Are you going to post You Are What You Eat?
No, I'm not going to post that.
What if, because you use Twitter as a testing ground, what if you tweeted it and it got an unbelievably positive response?
You know what I would do is, if I was going to post that, I would post it with like real nuance. And I would really for the first slide would be, you are what you eat. And I'd probably put like an arrow and say like, slide, like, you are what you eat. And with an arrow to point, slide to the next slide. And I'd post that. And then the next slide would be like, let's talk about what this actually means. And then go into like the discussion around how what you eat can influence who you are and who you become. And also the other side of it, how it's like, that's not all you are and all you become.
Yeah.
So
it's almost sad that you have to say that, because that should be inferred.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like there's great nuance you can add to it, but the fact that you would have to add, and by the way, you're not only what you eat, there's other aspects to who you are. It's like the fact that you need to say that to prevent outrage is so wild.
I think
people need to get off the internet. People need to break their phone and go get a Nokia. And I mean, not if you're making content for your business, but if you're just consuming, recklessly scrolling,
that's
2025.
I think is
get out of there.
I wonder if I could ever really get into stand-up comedy, because I would like to, but I think I'm so aware. I'm like hyper aware of how sensitive people get, and how like if you don't give every ounce of nuance, then people are going to lose their absolute shit. That it would be really difficult for me to get up on stage and make a joke that is designed to be a joke. It's designed to get a response. That's what stand-up comedy is. Like, it's designed to get a response. I don't know if I could do it.
I think you could, if you leaned into knowing that getting that response, and a lot of the response being negative, actually is success in the stand-up comedy world.
Yeah.
Because if you think of some of the guys we like, Ryan Long or Schultz,
Andrew Schultz,
like they know what they're saying is going to produce a negative response by some people, but they also know that what they're trying to do is say it in the funniest possible way.
Yeah. Dave Chappelle.
Yeah. I mean, so many of the greats. Yeah. But just, I'm thinking of people who are more in the social media, like people were less outraged during the Chappelle show in the early 2000s, or back when Eddie Murphy was like the pinnacle of comedy.
Oh man, the king. Yeah. Richard Pryor.
Yeah. We're just more sensitive now as a society, and we're hanging out in places where everyone is giving their feedback, and that feedback is public.
You know what's really interesting is, obviously this, I like with everything, there are pros and cons. And I think it's a great pro to be very inclusionary. It's very good, like very inclusionary, like think of everyone and all of their needs and all that. I think the downside of that has been, now anytime anything is said or done, now we're like, but it creates this cycle of, okay, but who did that offend? Why was that not okay? So this inclusionary mindset has gone to an extreme of, well, now we can't say anything that offends anybody. It's like, but I think, especially when it comes to comedy, it's like, comedy is supposed to be offensive. Like, comedy, like you're making fun of something or someone, and that something or someone has a group of people who like it or enjoy it, and that's comedy. Like, comedy is supposed to be offensive. There's a great line in The Office where they're telling Michael that he can't. He was like, "What? I'm not allowed to tell jokes anymore." And the guy goes, I think it was Toby. He was like, "Well, not offensive jokes. And he's like, all jokes are offensive. That's why it's a joke. It's just there is always offensive to somebody, which I think for the people who don't ever want to hurt anyone's feelings, it's really difficult to be okay with that. But ironically, when they get mad at the person who made the joke, they're willing to risk hurting that person's feelings. Which, right? It's just, it is very interesting.
But because the content creator has so much experience with dealing with the feedback that the person who's replying, who's not a consistent creator, doesn't have the practice of put something out, get feedback. Oh, interesting. Put something else out, get feedback. It shapes your message. They're just, raging onto their iPhone in a comment.
Yeah.
What you just said reminds me of that tweet that you liked so much, where this is what social media is like. It's like, I say I like oranges, and then the reply is like,
oh, so you're saying mangoes and bananas are shit?
Yes. It's so accurate.
Yeah.
And I really do think that it comes from consistently creating and getting feedback in this environment. Because when I see the stuff that people say who aren't ever creating publicly and don't have a personal brand, but might just get active, replying on Twitter, maybe friends of mine, I'm like, wow. What? Like,
yeah. Sometimes I'll get comments from people, oftentimes coaches, who don't make, like, they put coach in their name or their handle, but they don't make content. There's a coach, which is wonderful. But then they'll be like, this was a terrible piece of content. You didn't explain it all. And I say, my reply is, if you can make this content better in this time frame, I'll share it on my page and I'll tell everyone to follow you, but you have to submit it to me. And it's like, it's one thing to get really riled up about content. It's another thing to actually get your feet wet and do it, which, for whatever it's worth, I think a lot of coaches get really nervous about that. Oh, I don't want to make content. I don't want to get shit on. I don't want to get people mad. Like, that's a horrible reason to not do it, because even though you will get hate on, and the bigger you get, the more hate you'll get, the amount of people who appreciate it and who benefit from it, it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
Yeah. Negative feedback's a cost of entry.
Yeah. Do you have any negative feedback that you got when you were really creating content that stands out in your mind? Is there any, like, one comment or one message that you got that...
Dude, what stands out most to me when I was making content were, how do I put this charitably? Were the people who were always gassing me up. You're amazing. You're the best. You're so
a good person.
Yeah. Like, well, I feel like I didn't get that one as much. I feel like that one bothered you.
You got that one a lot.
You're a good person?
Yeah, people would say that all the time. You're such a good person. You spoke about that before.
Okay. I think that was you. But basically, like, I think believing, you got to stay in the middle. Believing the positive is just as bad as believing the negative. And I would say I disliked having fans, as, like, I know it doesn't sound great or maybe sounds unappreciative, but as much as haters, especially if I was angry, because then you can just lean into hate and that's gasoline. No, I feel like, some, like, you're on steroids, YouTube comments stand out.
Oh yeah. But would that get you angry, or would that, like, you like that? Because
I kind of liked it, but
yeah.
I liked the first couple.
Yes, I look like it.
I liked the first couple, but then, and there weren't that many, and I liked the first couple, but then I would get pissed.
Because they're trying to take away your hard work.
Yeah. I mean, people who actually are on steroids don't tell people they're on steroids because they don't like people taking away their hard work. It's like,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's a good question. Are there any negatives that stand out to you? I'm trying to think.
You kidding me? I could write a book on all the negatives.
No, I'm not. I'm not trying to. I can think of some, but you asked like any that really bothered me.
Any that really, I mean, I remember some of the steroid ones. No, there aren't any in particular that I remember you being really upset about.
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh. I thought you were asking, I remember any about you.
I gotcha. Yeah, I didn't phrase that well.
The things that bother me the most, it's funny, like fitness stuff doesn't really bother me anymore.
I was gonna say it varies from like year to year.
Yeah, like for example, I made a post the other day. It's still shocking to me how many people actually believe that starvation mode is a thing, and that they actually believe that you can get fat from eating too little. And so I made a post about it the other day, and I do this. I used to do it a lot more. Now it's just like, how many fucking times can I say it? But I made a post about it. And dude, there were the number of coaches in there. It was funny. The regular everyday people were like, yep, I'm not fat from eating too little. That's for sure. Yeah. Like, but the coaches who are in there who were like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And they were just going off on like hormones and this and that. And I was like, you guys are selling a product. And that's your sale. Is like you're saying, oh, you're only not losing weight because you're eating too little. You join my program and then you get to eat more and you'll lose weight. It's like the number of coaches who got mad about that. But it's funny because I don't care. Like fitness stuff doesn't really bother me. You know what? It used to bother me when people would say sumo deadlift is cheating, or they'd be like, they would bother me like fitness stuff. Fitness stuff doesn't really bother me anymore. Now it's more ideology, more like human stuff. Obviously current events, that type of stuff is really what gets to me more. People bringing my kids or my wife into it really sets me off. I'm pretty quick to block at this point, like with that.
Oh, you don't battle there?
Okay, if I am gonna battle, I'll say one thing to cut really deep. Like I'll say one thing to cut really deep, and basically it's to the effect of like they'll say something about my kids or my wife, and I'll just be like something to the effect of like, I can't imagine what it must be like to send a message not only hateful towards someone you don't know, but to that person's incredible like wife and daughters. Like I couldn't imagine the place that you must have to be in that you figure this is a good use of your time. I make sure that they see it and then I block.
Yeah, that's it. That's not cut. I like that response.
I mean,
it's
that,
true.
For me, that is true. Like it cuts deep because now they have real personal reflection.
When you said cut deep, I thought you like looked at their profile and like went after their biggest insecurity or something.
No. Because to me, that's easy for them to brush off. They can brush that off. You can't brush off like, I really have to look at myself. Why the fuck did I just write that message?
Which is true, by the way. Like that has to be the overwhelming majority of negativity online is coming from the fact that a person is in a bad place in their own life.
Yeah, for sure. And there are some times where I've done it where some people will email me afterwards after I block them and be like, hey, I'm really sorry.
Some reflection.
Yeah,
nice.
like you were right. I don't know why I sent that. I had a really bad day, and then I'll go unblock. Like, can you please unblock me? I really like your content, and I'll do that. But like, I'm not going to go ad hominem. That doesn't. It never helps. It never does anything.
When you said cut, I don't think that you do that. But the way you said cut deep, that's what I interpreted. And then I remember this interaction. This guy handled it so well. But it was on a non-fitness page, and this like giant juiced up bodybuilder made a comment. Like a thoughtful comment, but disagreeing. It wasn't bad or anything. And the creator replied to the post and was like, your left side's bigger than your right side, or like something like that. And like clearly they went and looked at him, and he's got all these posing pictures and everything. But the guy replied really well. He like did some laughy emojis. He's like, cut to the bone. You went right after my biggest insecurity. like something funny and very self-aware.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. But yes, that's a good place to just either one comment and block or just block right away.
Yeah. If it's about me, I don't really care very much. If it's about fitness at this point, I I just don't really care. Anymore.
It's not part of your identity like it might have been in
2015.
2015.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just in 2015, I feel like the science-based industry was so small and the space for bullshit was so big. And now it's like you go to anyone pushing nonsense and you go into the comments and people are calling them out everywhere. Everywhere people are calling them out. It's so funny, like even up until probably like 2020 or 2021, it's funny, I've noticed if I made content explaining what a calorie deficit is, it would almost always do really well because it was like teaching people something. Now
everyone knows.
And I wouldn't put calorie deficit in like the headline of it or like as like the title of it or as like the image, because I was like, most people don't know what that is, so I'm not going to say that. Now when I put like how to make your calorie deficit easier, it does way better because people have that knowledge now. So the base level of knowledge has leveled up way more than it was 10, 7, 5 years ago.
On that note, we're going to wrap. We got a mentorship Q&A to get to right now. Great first episode of 2025. If you have not left us a 5-star review, Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to this podcast, we would really appreciate it.
I think Amazon now has podcasts.
Amazon, and anywhere.
SoundCloud.
Thank you.
Wherever you are, leave a comment.
Pinterest, Snapchat.
Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, all that.
That's right.
I'm getting more consistent in 2025. Posting on that page.
Let's go. Let's go, baby.
All right. Thank you for listening.
Have a great start to this year. Get after it. Remember, you are what you eat. And we will see you next week.
See ya.